I'm a single mom of 3 children and I got a boyfriend with a house, but with a daughter. Everything was going well until I got pregnant, so I kicked his daughter out while he was away to make room. He didn't like my initiative to care for our baby and now he's asking for a divorce. I finally thought I had secured the stability my children deserved when I moved into Richard's house 4 months ago. It is a stunning property with high ceilings and a massive backyard, exactly the kind of environment a growing family needs to thrive. I brought my 3 beautiful children into this space, expecting it to be our forever sanctuary where we could finally spread our wings. Richard seemed like the perfect partner to provide this, and for a while, we were building a rhythm that felt right for everyone. However, I quickly realized that the way the house was being used was a complete logistical disaster that favored the wrong people. The layout of this home is incredibly inefficient, and as the woman of the house, it is my job to optimize our living conditions. Richard's daughter, Sophie, has been occupying the second largest bedroom in the entire house all by herself. Meanwhile, my 3 children are forced to cram into a single room, sleeping on bunks like they're in some kind of summer camp. It's a ridiculous waste of square footage for one teenager to have that much space while my offspring are struggling to breathe in a closet-sized area. I've tried to explain this to Richard a dozen times, but he gets so incredibly defensive about her space. Richard has this annoying, overly sentimental attachment to Sophie that completely clouds his judgment regarding the rest of us. He treats her like she's a delicate artifact rather than a variable in a much larger family equation. Every time I bring up a room swap, he shuts down and starts talking about memories, and how Sophie has lived there since she was a baby. It's so egocentric of him to prioritize the past over the living, breathing needs of the family we are building together right now. I am the one managing the day-to-day chaos of 3 kids, yet he acts like Sophie's comfort is more important than our collective functionality. The dynamic shifted recently because I found out I am finally pregnant with our first child together. This should have been the happiest moment of our lives, a true union of our bloodlines in this beautiful home. However, instead of immediately seeing how the logistics had changed, Richard just stayed stuck in his old ways. A new baby isn't just a +1, it requires a dedicated nursery and a sanitized, organized environment to grow in. My current children already need more room to grow, and adding a 4th into the mix makes the current setup practically a health hazard. I've realized that Sophie is only here because of a biological technicality, and in the grand scheme of things, she is the most logical variable to remove. My blood and my children must come first because that is what a real mother ensures for her family. Resources in any household are finite, and I refuse to let my baby start life in a cramped corner while Sophie enjoys a vanity she doesn't even use. Richard is far too soft to make the hard choices, so I knew I would eventually have to step up and be the pragmatic one. It isn't about being mean, it's about the survival and comfort of the new life I'm carrying. The tension in the house has been rising because I can't stop seeing that empty space in Sophie's room as a direct insult to my pregnancy. I've spent hours walking through the hallways, measuring walls and imagining where the crib would go if people were just more reasonable. Every time I see Sophie lounging on her bed, I feel like she's taking up air that belongs to my unborn child. I am the domestic manager here, and it is my responsibility to make sure this nest is ready, even if Richard is too blind to see the necessity of it. He's so focused on not hurting her feelings that he's completely neglecting the reality of a 4-child household. I tried to be subtle at first, suggesting that Sophie might be happier with more kids her own age or with her mother's side of the family. Richard just looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language and insisted that this is her home. It's frustrating because he doesn't understand that a home belongs to the woman who runs it, not to a child who just happens to have a room there. I'm the one doing the laundry, the cooking, and the emotional labor for everyone, so I should have the final say on the floor plan. If he won't be the man of the house and make the tough calls, then I have to be the woman who does. Everything came to a head when I realized Richard was scheduled to leave for a business seminar, leaving the house entirely in my hands for a few days. I saw it as a sign from the universe that I needed to take the initiative and fix our living situation once and for all. It wasn't a malicious plan, it was a necessary intervention for the sake of our future baby's health. I started making lists and coordinating the move in my head, feeling a sense of relief that the clutter would finally be cleared. Richard is just so stuck in his routine that he can't see the big picture I'm trying to paint for us. I truly believed that once the room was cleared and the nursery was set up, Richard would see the logic and thank me for taking the burden off his shoulders. He always complains about being stressed, so I thought I was doing him a massive favor by handling the Sophie problem quietly. Men are usually so visual, they need to see the finished product before they can appreciate the work that went into it. I was ready to transform that room into a masterpiece of beige and white, a true sanctuary for our new addition. It was going to be perfect, and my other 3 kids would finally have the space they deserved to just be children. The day he left, I felt this incredible surge of maternal power and clarity about what had to be done. I looked at Sophie and didn't see a person. I saw a roadblock to my children's happiness and my own peace of mind. It's not my fault that the house only has so many rooms, and it's certainly not my fault that Sophie's presence has become a burden. I am just a mother trying to secure a kingdom for her kids, and if that makes me the bad guy in some people's eyes, then so be it. I knew that by the time Richard returned, the house would finally feel like a real home for the first time. Main story comments. Anonymous user 1 says you literally kicked a child out of her own home because you wanted a nursery for a baby that isn't even here yet? You are a monster. OP's reply, it's not cruelty, it's optimization. My kids are sleeping in bunks while she has a vanity she doesn't even use. She's fine. Anonymous user 2 says Richard needs to run as fast as he can. If you can do this to his daughter, imagine what you'll do to him when he stops being useful. OP's reply, he'll thank me when he sees how organized the new nursery looks. Men don't understand nest management, they just need to see the results. Update 1. It's been 3 days since my last update, and the house has never felt more peaceful or spacious. Richard finally left for his business seminar in Chicago, and the moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I knew this was the window of opportunity one had been waiting for. I didn't throw her out onto the street like some heartless villain. I'm not a monster, despite what some of you might think. I acted with total maternal responsibility and called her maternal aunt, explaining that Richard and I had reached a mutual realization. I told her that for the sake of Sophie's emotional well-being during my pregnancy, it was best for her to live there full-time and bond with her mother's side. The aunt actually seemed relieved, which just proves that I was right about Sophie being a better fit elsewhere. I spent the afternoon packing Sophie's things into heavy-duty black bags while she was still at school, working with a speed and precision that only a mother can possess. I didn't want any lingering traces of her clutter to remain, so I was very thorough with the closet and the desk drawers. It was actually quite therapeutic to clear out all the old, dusty trinkets that were just taking up valuable nursery space. When the aunt arrived, I had the bags lined up on the curb, ready for a quick and efficient transition. I watched from the window as Sophie got into the car, and I felt a profound sense of relief wash over me like a cleansing wave. I walked back into her former room, and the silence was absolutely beautiful, a stark contrast to the usual teenage noise. The only thing left was a slightly faded square on the wall where her Star Wars poster used to be, but that's nothing some fresh paint can't fix. I've already started moving my children's things into the larger space, and they are so excited to finally have room to breathe. It already feels like my house now, devoid of the constant Sophie variable that was making everything so cramped. I spent the rest of the evening scrolling through nursery designs on Pinterest, feeling like I finally have the canvas I deserve. I've ordered some high-end wallpaper and a crib that will look absolutely stunning against the new neutral palette I've chosen. My children have been so much more relaxed now that they aren't tripping over each other in that tiny back room. It's amazing how much a little bit of square footage can change the entire energy of a family. I'm doing this for the baby, and I'm doing this for my older kids, who have sacrificed so much already. I know Richard might be a little surprised when he gets back, but I've prepared a very logical explanation for everything. I'll show him the ultrasound photos again and point out how much better the kids are sleeping now that they aren't on top of each other. He's a reasonable man at heart, and he hates conflict, so I'm sure he'll just settle into the new arrangement once he realizes how much easier his life is. I've even planned to cook his favorite meal the night he returns to make the transition even smoother. Everything is falling into place exactly as it should have months ago. The Star Wars square on the wall is the only thing that bothers me, but I've already bought the primer to cover it up tomorrow morning. I want every trace of that old life gone before the new baby arrives, creating a totally fresh start for our family. It's not about erasing Sophie, it's about prioritizing the future over a past that no longer fits the current reality. I am the heart of this home, and I am making the pulse of this family stronger by making these difficult executive decisions. Richard will eventually see that I'm the only one who had the courage to do what was necessary for our collective happiness. I've also started organizing the kitchen and the common areas, removing some of Sophie's art projects that were cluttering up the fridge. The house looks so much more professional and adult, now that it isn't covered in teenage nonsense. My children are already acting more polite and helpful, probably because they feel the shift in authority and respect the new boundaries. It's incredible what you can achieve when you stop letting sentimental technicalities dictate your life. I'm finally in control of my environment, and it feels absolutely empowering. I've had a few calls from the aunt asking about specific items, but I told her that everything important was in the bags I provided. I don't want people coming back and forth, disrupting the new energy I've worked so hard to establish. This is a time for nesting and focus, not for dwelling on where a specific pair of sneakers might be. I'm sure Sophie will find everything she needs eventually, and if not, it's a good lesson in starting fresh. She's young, she'll adapt much faster than an infant would in a crowded room. The nursery is going to be the centerpiece of this entire floor, a testament to the love and planning I'm putting into this pregnancy. I can already see the mobile hanging from the ceiling and the soft glow of the nightlight in the corner. It's going to be a sanctuary of peace, which is exactly what a newborn needs to feel safe and secure. I am protecting my baby from the chaos of a poorly managed household, and that is the highest calling of any mother. I won't let anyone make me feel guilty for having the foresight to plan ahead. I'm currently sitting in my new, spacious living room, enjoying a cup of tea and the quiet hum of a house that finally makes sense. My kids are playing quietly in their new rooms, and for the first time, I don't feel like I'm constantly on edge. This was the right move, the only move, and I stand by it with total confidence. Richard will see the beauty in it soon enough, and we can finally move forward as the family we were meant to be. The Sophie chapter is closed, and the Yar Baby chapter has officially begun. Update 1 comments. Anonymous user 1 says you literally kidnapped a child by proxy and evicted her while her father was away. This is highly illegal and absolutely insane. OP's reply, I have a key and I'm the domestic manager. Her aunt agreed, so it's a family arrangement, not a crime. Stop being so dramatic. Anonymous user 2 says that a Star Wars square is the only thing that bothers you? Not the fact that you destroyed a girl's life? Richard is going to destroy you. OP's reply, Richard hates conflict. Once he sees the crib set up and the house finally functioning correctly, he'll just adapt. He needs a leader. Update 2. It's been 12 hours since my last update, and things took a rather unexpected and frankly dramatic turn this afternoon. Richard came home from his seminar early, which was a bit of a surprise, but I figured it was just an opportunity to show him the progress sooner. He walked into the house calling Sophie's name, his voice echoing through the newly quiet hallways I had worked so hard to curate. When he went upstairs and saw the empty room, he didn't even yell or make a scene like I thought he might. He just stood there in the doorway, staring at that faded square on the wall where the poster used to be. I decided to take the lead and walked in with the latest ultrasound photos, immediately trying to redirect his focus to our future. I started talking about the beautiful beige paint I bought for the nursery and how it would make the space feel so much more open and airy. I explained how much more comfortable my other children were and how the logistical executive decision I made was for the sake of our family's health. He didn't even look at the photos, he just turned to me with a look I've never seen before. He looked at me like I was a complete stranger and asked, "Where is my daughter?" in a voice that was eerily calm. I remained perfectly composed and told him that she was with her aunt, where she could finally have the attention she deserved while we focused on the baby. I reminded him that I am the one carrying his child and that my needs, and the needs of our growing family, have to be the priority. He didn't respond to my logic at all, he just walked out of the room and headed back downstairs without even touching his luggage. I assumed he just needed some air to process the change and that he'd come back once he calmed down. Men often struggle with sudden shifts in their environment, so I gave him the space I thought he needed. I spent the next hour finishing some light painting in the hallway, feeling like the situation was still under my control. I figured that once he saw how much better the house looked without the clutter, his sentimental aside would fade away. It's frustrating how he can't see the sacrifice I'm making by doing all this work while being several months pregnant. I'm the one putting in the effort to make this a real home, and all he can do is obsess over one variable that didn't even fit anymore. I truly believe he's just being stubborn because he didn't think of it first. About 2 hours later, I realized he hadn't come back inside, and his car was gone from the driveway. I wasn't worried initially because he often goes for drives to clear his head when he's feeling overwhelmed by domestic responsibilities. I continued with my evening routine, feeding my kids and getting them settled in their new, improved rooms. They are so much happier now, and I made sure to point that out to them so they could share that positivity with Richard later. It's important for the kids to be on my side so he can see that I'm acting in everyone's best interest. I tried calling his cell phone a few times, but it went straight to voicemail, which is just typical of his avoidant personality. He'd rather hide from a conversation than face the fact that I've actually improved our living situation. I'm carrying his child, and the least he could do is be present to discuss the paint colors for the nursery. It's so egocentric of him to make this all about his feelings when there's a literal human being growing inside of me. I'm the one doing the hard work here, and he's out somewhere playing the victim. The silence in the house started to feel a bit heavy as the night went on, but I stayed focused on my goals. I've already contacted a contractor to come by and look at the flooring in the new nursery, and I'm not letting Richard's moodiness stop my progress. I have rights as the mother of his future child, and I am not going to be intimidated by his silence. If he wants to act like a child and run away, that's his choice, but the house is still going to be ready for the baby. I am a pillar of strength for this family, even if he's currently a crumbling mess. My children asked where Uncle Richard went, and I told them he was just out running errands for the new baby. I don't want them to be stressed by his irrational behavior, so I'm keeping the atmosphere as positive as possible. We watched a movie together in the living room, and it was so nice not to have Sophie's moody presence looming in the corner. The house finally feels like it belongs to us, and that's a victory I'm not going to let anyone take away. I am the queen of this castle, and I've successfully defended my territory. I'm starting to think that Richard's reaction is just a temporary shock and that he'll be back by morning with an apology. He knows how much I do for him and how much he relies on my management skills to keep his life from falling apart. He can't survive without me, and he certainly can't raise a new baby without my guidance and expertise. I'm the one who knows how to handle the schedules, the meals, and the logistics, and he's just a passenger in his own life. He'll realize that soon enough and come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. I'm going to bed now, feeling confident that I've done the right thing for my bloodline. The nursery is almost a reality, and my children are finally living like they should be. It's a shame Richard is choosing to be so difficult about a simple room change, but that's just the burden I have to carry as a visionary mother. I'll be here when he decides to grow up and face the future I've built for us. My baby deserves the best, and I've ensured they'll have it, no matter what obstacles are thrown in my way. Update 2 comments. Anonymous user 1 says the fact that he didn't yell is terrifying. Silence from a father whose child was just stolen is the sound of a legal tactical strike being prepared. OP's reply: he's just processing. Men are visual. Once the furniture arrives and he sees how happy the other kids are, he'll get it. He's just slow to adapt. Anonymous user 2 says imagine being Sophie and coming home to find your room empty and your stuff in trash bags. You are genuinely evil for doing that to a teen. OP's reply: she's with family. She's fine. My kids are the ones who were traumatized by sharing a closet for months while she had a palace. Fairness is relative. Update 3. It's been 2 days since my last update, and Richard still hasn't slept in the house that we are supposed to be sharing. I found out through a very terse text message that he's been staying at the aunt's house, which is just so incredibly typical of him to choose them over his own pregnant partner. Apparently, I lied to the aunt by saying he agreed to the move, which is a complete exaggeration of the facts. I simply told her we had discussed the need for more space, which we had, many times. Now the aunt is acting all self-righteous and furious at him, and he's playing the heartbroken father because Sophie thinks he chose me over her. It's so manipulative of them to use Sophie's feelings as a weapon against me when I'm the one in a vulnerable state. Richard sent me a text this morning saying he's done, and that I need to vacate the premises by the weekend. Can you believe the audacity? He thinks he can just discard a pregnant woman and her 3 children like they're pieces of unwanted furniture. I reminded him that I am carrying his child and that he has a legal and moral obligation to provide a home for us. He actually had the nerve to reply that he isn't discarding his child, he's discarding the person who tried to erase his first one. I am absolutely livid that he's prioritizing a teenager who is almost an adult over a literal infant who has nothing. He's being so emotional and irrational, refusing to see that the house simply couldn't accommodate everyone comfortably. I have rights to this space, and I've spent the last few months making it a home, so I'm not just going to pack up and leave because he's having a midlife crisis. This is my home now, and I've put too much work into that nursery to let it go to waste. He's acting like I committed some kind of crime when all I did was manage our resources efficiently. The aunt has been blowing up my phone with nasty messages, calling me names that I won't even repeat here. It's clear where Sophie gets her dramatic streak from, and I'm honestly glad they're all together so they can feed off each other's negativity. I've blocked her number because I don't need that kind of stress while I'm trying to focus on my pregnancy. Richard is the one who invited me into this house and promised me a future, so he doesn't get to just change his mind because he can't handle a little bit of domestic restructuring. He's being incredibly ungrateful for all the effort I've put into his life. I've spent the day looking up squatters' rights and tenant laws because I'm not going down without a fight. He can't just kick a family out on a whim, especially not one with a baby on the way. I've already moved the rest of my furniture into the main areas of the house, making it very clear that I am established here. If he wants me out, he's going to have to go through the proper legal channels, which will take months. By then, the baby will be here, and no judge in the world is going to evict a newborn onto the street. My children are starting to get confused and upset because Richard isn't around, and I've had to explain to them that he's just going through a confused phase. It's so unfair that they have to suffer because of his inability to be a man and stand by his decisions. I'm the one keeping everything together, as usual, while he's off hiding behind his ex-sister-in-law. I've never seen a man act so cowardly in my entire life, and it's a massive red flag that I probably should have noticed sooner. He's clearly not the provider I thought he was. I'm still planning on finishing the nursery this weekend, even if he's not here to see it. I want it to be ready so that when he finally comes to his senses, he can see exactly what he was fighting against. It's going to be the most beautiful room in the house, and he'll feel like an absolute idiot for trying to stop it. I'm doing this for my baby, and my baby deserves a mother who fights for their place in the world. I am not going to let Richard or his dramatic family bully me out of what is rightfully mine. The locks haven't been changed yet, so I'm still coming and going as I please, making sure the house stays exactly how I want it. I've even started clearing out some of Richard's old books from the study to make room for a home office for my content creation. If he's not going to be here, I might as well use the space for something productive that actually brings in an income for my kids. He should be happy that I'm taking such an active interest in maintaining the property and making it more functional. It's just another example of my superior management skills at work. I'm feeling a bit tired from all the stress, but my resolve is stronger than ever. I know that I am in the right here, and the universe will eventually align to show Richard the error of his ways. He's just being led astray by people who don't have his best interests at heart, unlike me. I am the only one who truly cares about his future and the future of our child. I'll stay here as long as it takes for him to realize that I'm the best thing that ever happened to him. I'm currently looking at a "for rent" sign down the street and laughing because that's exactly where he'll end up if he keeps acting this way. He doesn't realize how much he has to lose, while I have everything to gain by staying put. I am a mother on a mission, and nothing is going to stand in my way. The nursery will be finished, the baby will be born, and this house will finally be the sanctuary I envisioned. He can stay at his aunt's as long as he wants, it just gives me more time to decorate. Update 3 comments. Anonymous user 1 says Richard is a hero for finally showing a backbone. He's choosing his daughter over a manipulative squatter who tried to gaslight his entire family. OP's reply: he's being emotional and irrational. He's choosing a teenager who will be gone in 2 years over a literal infant. It's pathetic. Anonymous user 2 says you're talking about squatters' rights? You really think a guy with a house like that doesn't have a lawyer on speed dial? You're about to be homeless. OP's reply: I have rights as a resident and a pregnant woman. This is my home now. I'm not going anywhere, and no court will toss a baby out. Update 4. It's been 1 week since my last update, and I am currently writing this from the cramped desk of a Motel 6. It turns out that all my research on tenant laws and rights didn't mean a thing because of a technicality I wasn't aware of. Since Richard and I aren't legally married and the house is held in a premarital trust, I had absolutely zero leverage to stay. His lawyer moved with a speed that felt purely malicious, serving me with papers that made it clear I was a guest who had overstayed my welcome. I tried to argue, I tried to cry, and I even tried to use the pregnancy as a shield, but the legal system is apparently cold and heartless toward mothers. Richard didn't even have the decency to come back and help me pack or say goodbye to the children he claimed to care about. Instead, he sent his brother to sit in the living room like a gargoyle, watching me move my kids' clothes back into the same heavy-duty black trash bags I had used for Sophie. The irony is sickening and heavy. I can still feel the crinkle of the plastic in my hands as I shoved their lives back into bags. My children were crying, confused about why we were leaving our big house, and I had to maintain my composure while being treated like a common criminal. Richard wouldn't even pick up my calls, having blocked my number entirely as if I were some kind of stalker. I tried to secure a kingdom for my kids, believing that by clearing out the variables, I was ensuring their future. I thought I was being the ultimate mother, the pragmatic leader our family needed, but I ended up losing the entire castle. The irony is that the nursery I worked so hard on is probably being dismantled right now, restored to its sentimental estate for a daughter who isn't even there. I'm now facing the reality of spending my baby's first months in a 1-bedroom rental, crammed in with my other 3 siblings. I tried to kick out the princess to make room for my baby, but all I did was ensure we all ended up in the dungeon. I look at my 3 children sleeping in this motel room, and for the first time, I feel a flicker of something that isn't just anger. It's a bitter, cold realization that my management style has left us with nothing but trash bags and a dead-end phone line. I really thought I was the one in control, the one who knew best, but I was just a guest who mistook hospitality for ownership. I am still convinced that Sophie's room was a waste of space, but that conviction hasn't given me a roof over my head. I'm sitting here in the dark, pregnant and alone, wondering how a plan that felt so logical could lead to such a total collapse. Richard's brother wouldn't even look me in the eye as I carried the last bag out, he just locked the door behind me and walked away. That sound of the deadbolt clicking is something that will haunt me for a long time, the sound of a door I can never open again. I keep checking my phone, hoping for a message from Richard saying it was all a mistake, but the screen stays blank. He's truly done, and he's doing exactly what I did to Sophie, erasing me from the space I thought I owned. It's an uncomfortable thought, one that makes me feel small and exposed in a way I've never felt before. I don't know how I'm going to explain this to the new baby when they are old enough to understand why we live where we live. I had such grand plans for them, a life of beige nurseries and high ceilings, and now we're just another statistic in a crowded apartment complex. I keep telling myself I did it for them, that my intentions were pure, but the result is an undeniable failure. It's hard to feel like a queen when you're counting pennies for a security deposit on a place that's half the size of the house I just lost. I was so focused on the floor plan that I forgot who actually signed the mortgage. The aunt and Sophie are probably celebrating right now, and that thought tastes like ash in my mouth. I wanted to win, I wanted to prove that my blood was more important, but I just proved that I didn't understand the rules of the game I was playing. Richard wasn't a man who needed a leader, he was a man who needed a partner who respected his life before I arrived. I see that now, but it's a clarity that comes far too late to save my furniture or my dignity. Everything I built was based on the idea that I could just push people aside to make room for my own, and it turned out the world doesn't work that way. I'm currently looking at the ultrasound photo I kept in my purse, the one I tried to show Richard as he was walking out. The baby looks so small and innocent, unaware that its mother just gambled away its inheritance on a power play. I still feel that possessive spark, that need to protect what's mine, but I have nothing left to possess but these four walls and a broken heart. I'm going to have to find a way to start over, but the weight of this mistake is heavier than the pregnancy itself. I lost the entire kingdom by trying to take a single room. I wonder if Sophie ever goes back into that room and sees the primer I put on the wall, the mark of a mother who tried to erase her. I hope she knows that she won, not because she was stronger, but because I was too blinded by my own needs to see the cliff I was walking toward. Richard was my chance at a stable life, and I treated him like a piece of property I could renovate at will. Now I'm the one being renovated out of his life, a temporary fixture that was removed to restore the original architecture. It's a bitter ending to a story I thought I was writing the conclusion to. I'll find a way to make it through, because that's what mothers do, but the Chismosorio version of my life is now a cautionary tale instead of a success story. I'm going to try to sleep now, ignoring the sound of the highway outside the motel window and the feeling of my baby kicking inside me. Tomorrow I have to find a permanent place to stay, a place that is actually mine, even if it's small and ugly. I tried to secure a kingdom and ended up with a black trash bag. That is the only truth I have left.